Modern Egypt is the undisputed heart of Sunni Islam, home to institutions that define global Orthodox practice. Yet history conceals a profound paradox. For 2 centuries, from 969 to 1171 CE, this land was the political and theological center of a powerful rival, the Shia Fatimid Caliphate. This dynasty didn't just rule. They built Cairo, challenged Baghdad, and fostered an intellectual golden age based on Ismaili principles, fundamentally reshaping the political geography of the Islamic world. To understand modern Egypt, we must first unearth the legacy of these Shia rulers who governed a vast Sunni populace, managing the delicate balance between theological rivalry and imperial pragmatism, setting the stage for one of history's most fascinating experiments in religious governance. The Fatimid project began not in Egypt, but across the Maghreb. Claiming descent directly from Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, and her husband Ali, they were the spiritual and temporal leaders of the Ismaili branch of Shia Islam. Their ambition was nothing short of universal caliphate, directly challenging the perceived illegitimacy of the Abbasid Caliphs in Baghdad. By the mid-10th century, having established themselves firmly in Tunisia and having conquered Sicily, their gaze turned eastward. Egypt, weakened by internal Ikhshidid squabbling and plagued by famine and economic instability, represented not just a strategic prize, but the ultimate ideological necessity to legitimize their claim over the entire Muslim world and launch their final, decisive push against their eastern rivals.
The conquest of Egypt in 969 CE was a masterpiece of military and political planning, orchestrated by the Sicilian general Jawad al-Sakili. Leading a massive army drawn from Berber tribes, Jawar exploited the chaos plaguing Fustat. The invasion was less a brutal war and more a calculated, managed transition. Crucially, Jawar offered terms of surrender that guaranteed the safety of the Sunni populace and ensured respect for the existing legal and religious frameworks, provided they swore allegiance to the Fatimid Imam Caliph. This strategic leniency was vital. It allowed the Fatimids to secure the immensely wealthy province without prolonged resistance, immediately providing the stability necessary to fund their enormous imperial ambitions, and most importantly, finance the construction of their new capital.
Immediately upon conquest, Jawhar established a new capital city north of the old capital Fustat. This new city was named Al-Qahira al-Mu'izziyah, the victorious city of Al-Mu'izz, which we know today simply as Cairo. Cairo was designed not as an organic settlement, but as a walled military and administrative encampment, a closed space intended primarily for the caliph, his court, and the powerful Kutama Berber guard. The architectural blueprint reflected the dynasty's exclusive nature. It was a physical manifestation of their divine claim, isolating the seat of Ismaili power from the Sunni masses of Fustat. Its walls, palaces, and governmental complexes instantly signaled Cairo as the new, formidable center of the Islamic world, challenging Baghdad's claim to supremacy both aesthetically and politically.
The Fatimid era marked a golden age of trade and economy in Egypt. Positioned at the nexus of east-west trade routes, their ports thrived, facilitating the flow of spices, textiles, and precious metals between India, the Mediterranean, and Europe. The state heavily regulated commerce, instituting fair weights and measures, and ensuring the stability of its gold currency, the dinar, which became the standard medium of exchange across the Mediterranean. This economic stability, coupled with a highly organized bureaucracy, allowed the Fatimids to amass incredible wealth. This wealth was poured not just into lavish palaces, but into public works, infrastructure, and crucially, the patronage of science, philosophy, and learning, attracting scholars and artisans regardless of their religious affiliation.
A defining legacy of the Fatimids is their founding of Al-Azhar in 970 CE, initially conceived as a jami or congregational mosque, but quickly transformed into a center for learning and dawah, the propagation of Ismaili doctrine. Yet the caliphate was not solely defined by theological imposition. While the Ismaili imams held ultimate authority, the administration demonstrated surprising levels of religious pluralism. Sunni jurists were employed, Coptic Christians held high positions in the bureaucracy, and Jewish merchants, such as those documented in the Cairo Genisa, flourished under their protection. This tolerance was rooted in pragmatism.
Governing a multi-religious, overwhelmingly non-Ismaili populace required flexibility, turning Egypt into a melting pot of ideas, where intellectual debate often transcended narrow sectarian lines, fostering advances in astronomy, medicine, and mathematics.
The artistic and architectural achievements of the Fatimids are truly singular. While much of their grand palace architecture has been lost, their mosques, notably Al-Azhar and Al-Hakim, survive as monumental testaments to their distinctive style. Characterized by intricate stucco work, beautifully carved wooden ceilings, and the innovative use of the keel arch, Fatimid art fused North African, Byzantine, and indigenous Egyptian elements. Furthermore, the Caliphs were prolific patrons of the minor arts, producing stunning works in rock crystal, lusterware ceramics, and intricately woven textiles known as tiraz. These objects were not merely decorative, they were instruments of imperial propaganda, often inscribed with the names of the Caliphs, disseminating the prestige and divine authority of the Ismaili imamate across the empire and beyond its borders. Despite their golden age, the seeds of Fatimid decline were sown internally. Succession crises were chronic, often leading to deep schisms within the Ismaili community itself, most famously the Nizari split. More damagingly, effective power gradually migrated from the Caliphs, who sometimes came to the throne as minors, to powerful military viziers, often recruited from Armenian, Turkish, or Black African military corps. These viziers became the true strongmen, competing fiercely for control, reducing the once mighty Imam Caliphs to mere figureheads confined within the great palaces of Cairo. This internal weakness, marked by civil war, corruption, and the erosion of central authority, left the caliphate critically vulnerable, just as external threats, particularly the Crusades, began to encroach on the Levant. The emergence of the Crusades in the late 11th century intensified the pressure on the Fatimids. While the European invaders initially targeted the fragmented Sunni states of the Levant, the Fatimids were drawn into the conflict when they briefly recaptured Jerusalem, only to lose it again. More crucially, the rise of the Sunni Zengid dynasty in Syria under the leadership of Nur ad-Din posed an existential threat. Nur ad-Din actively sought to end the Shia Caliphate as a necessary step to unify Muslim forces against the Crusaders. Egypt became the ultimate battleground, caught between the encroaching Franks in the west and the unifying Sunni forces of Nur ad-Din in the east. This geopolitical pressure demanded strong leadership, something the politically paralyzed Fatimid court could no longer provide. The final chapter began as a desperate political maneuver. In 1164, the Fatimid vizier, facing rival factions, appealed to Nur ad-Din for military aid. Nur ad-Din dispatched an army led by his Kurdish general Shirkuh and Shirkuh's nephew, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub. What followed was a complex game of political chess. The Kurdish forces initially saved the caliphate from the Crusaders and internal enemies, but they soon entrenched themselves. Upon Shirkuh's death in 1169, Salah ad-Din inherited the vizierate. He was now the most powerful man in Egypt, serving the Shia Caliph Al-Adid, while simultaneously taking orders from his Sunni master, Nur ad-Din, setting the stage for the inevitable confrontation between the two major branches of Islam in the heart of Cairo. The end of the Fatimid Caliphate came with startling bureaucratic ease. For 2 years, Salah ad-Din systematically dismantled the Shia infrastructure, replacing Ismaili judges and administrators with Sunni officials, and subtly promoting the Abbasid name in state prayers. Finally, on September 10, 1171, upon the death of the last Fatimid Caliph, Al-Adid, Salah ad-Din simply ordered the substitution of the Abbasid Caliph's name in the Friday sermon, Khutbah. There was no massive revolt, no bloody purge. The change was implemented peacefully, marking the official end of the only successful Shia Caliphate in Islamic history. Egypt was formally returned to the Sunni fold, and Salah ad-Din, now the undisputed Sultan of Egypt, established the Ayyubid dynasty, paving the way for the eventual Mamluk Empire and permanently securing Egypt as a Sunni power base against the Crusaders. Though the Fatimid Caliphate vanished politically, their cultural and urban legacy endures. Cairo itself stands as their greatest monument, a city whose foundation, layout, and early architectural identity were defined by this dynasty. The institutions they established, most notably Al-Azhar, survived the Ayyubid transition,
although they were repurposed from centers of Ismaili doctrine into the preeminent universities of Sunni learning. Their economic sophistication and contributions to art and science permanently elevated Egypt's status in the world. The Fatimid era remains a crucial, complex chapter, reminding us that history, particularly in the Islamic world, is rarely defined by simple monoliths, but by dynamic shifts between theological ambition and political necessity. If you found this journey through Egypt's forgotten Shia past insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.